at the end of the day, it's all about freedom.
So I guess at the end of the day, Richard, I guess my concern is like, I don't know. We live in this progressive world that I have decided a long time ago is all complete bullshit. I'm ready to throw that all out. I'm not going to think you're an evil person just because they say you are. I'll look into it for myself. But I got to say, this does really concern me about you and the alt-right and all the people that are advocating this stuff, is that at the end of the day, what ended up happening, right, was that you advocate all of this hatred of the left, you throw out the natural rights and the classical liberalism and all the stuff that actually, in my mind, produced the most amount, not to paint with a broad brush, but the most amount of wealth and innovation and all this good stuff. And what ends up happening is a big bloodbath, as you said, which we might be gearing up for in the future, in which case you guys become more of a threat to my liberties and my freedoms than this horrible government that I hate ever was. So am I crazy? Am I off base? Or what do you think?
Well, no, I don't think you're right. But I would say this. I do think that we're not entering this kind of end of history utopia. I think we've lived through that. This point where identity would dissolve and we'd all be consuming individuals. Natural right would animate all governments around the world. I do not think we're ever going to re-enter that. I think that period probably lasted for 5 years in the 1990s, and we have now entered a new stage of history. But I would say that, again, I would go back to this tragic sense of liberty and freedom that I have, that is that I think rights come after the establishment of the state. And that probably makes you nauseous, or you don't like thinking about that. I do not think there's a natural right that pre-exists the state. I don't think you have rights outside of being part of a collective. So my answer to all of this is that if you want to maintain your identity and your rights and your basic liberties and freedom and so on, you need to be in a collective that will always support you. Being just a rootless individual, cosmopolitan, and so on, they often don't fare well in societies. Like if I moved to, say, Japan or something, I'm sure that if I were able to do that, that I would be perfectly fine as a gaijin, as a Westerner living in Japan. But if there were a chaotic time, I'm not gonna be delusional or naive and say that people like me might be the first to be cracked down upon, whether by society or by the government. And I think I could, thump my natural rights at them, or I could just simply recognize the reality of the situation. So basically, what I would advocate for everyone is that the nationalism really is a prescription for happiness, being part of a collective where everyone is inherently on the same page, culturally and morally and often linguistically and religiously and things like that. That is the prescription for safety. That's where you will be able to have freedom and liberty and rights, when you're within this collective that is your own country.